Good afternoon. It's 6 p.m. Cairo local time. You are now watching Channel 2. This is Sandra Suleiman presenting to you the news bulletin. Foreign Minister Abdelati chairs second ministerial meeting of Khartoum process in Cairo. An Israeli strike kills 26 people in Gaza City Shujaiya house. Yemen rebel media says U.S. strikes on Hudaybiyah killed 10 in a new talk. Welcome back. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Expatriates Badr Abdelati stressed that Egypt managed to fight illegal migration while opening its gates for refugees who fled to its territory in search for security and safety. He was addressing a press conference that was held at the conclusion of the second ministerial meeting of Khartoum process in Cairo on Wednesday. The top diplomat said that Egypt received 10 million migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers and has been providing all needs under President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's directives. Minister Abdelati stressed that Egypt rejects any form of displacement of the Palestinian people outside their lands, whether on permanent or temporary basis. The second ministerial meeting of Khartoum process that was held in Cairo's administrative capital this morning was concluded with the adoption of the Cairo Declaration. The conference focused on boosting regional and international partnerships and collaboration to promote sustainable solutions to migration and mobility issues, notably along the EU Horn of Africa migration route. Details follow.
Minister of Foreign Affairs, Immigration and Expatriates Badr Abdelati on Wednesday chaired the second ministerial meeting of Khartoum process held in Cairo. The Khartoum process is a platform formed in 2014 in Rome for enhancing political cooperation among transit countries along the EU Horn of Africa migration route. The Khartoum process has been chaired by Egypt since April 2024 when it hosted the steering committee meeting and senior officials meeting. The Khartoum process comprises 40 member states and organizations including the AU, the EU, the International Organization for Migration, the UN Refugee Agency, as well as Switzerland, Norway, as well as the Horn of Africa countries including Somalia and Djibouti. Addressing the meeting, the foreign minister said Egypt has worked to adapt to changing forms of migration and mobility during its presidency of Khartoum process. He said Cairo spared no effort to tackle the core causes behind illegal migration in its tackling phenomenon. The top diplomat said the conference aims to address key challenges and opportunities in migration management. The conference focuses on boosting regional and international partnerships and collaboration to promote sustainable solutions to migration and mobility issues. An EU Commission representative said current international challenges make Europe-Africa cooperation vital. African Union representative said the Union's 2063 agenda focuses on cooperation amongst member countries in supporting youth and human development. Also addressing the meeting, Assistant FM for Illegal Immigration reviewed the Khartoum process achievements. For his part, the Foreign Minister of Italy said the expansion of the dialogue between Europe and Africa will help tackle human trafficking problem. He said secured legal frameworks for mobility are needed to face illegal migration and fight trafficking crimes. He stressed that management of mobility is not concerned with preventing migration but over offering secure and legal routes.
On the sidelines of the second ministerial meeting of Khartoum process, Foreign Minister Abdelati held a meeting with EU Commissioner for Migration and Home Intern Affairs, Magnus Brunner. The top diplomat said Egypt appreciates EU support to projects meant to address the migration issue, stressing that the creation of legal tracks for migration and ensuring legal mobility of workers are among Egyptian policies to manage migration files. At another meeting on the sidelines of Khartoum Process Conference, the top diplomat said he looks forward to boosting Egyptian-French cooperation over migration. The meeting was held with France's State Minister for the Interior Affairs and praised the momentum in bilateral relations created by French President Emmanuel Macron's recent visit to Egypt. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Migration Badr Abdelati praised distinguished Egyptian-German relations across political and economic spheres. The remark was made at a meeting between the top diplomat and Michael Kretschmer, Prime Minister of the Free German State of Saxony, on the sidelines of the second ministerial meeting of the Khartoum process in Cairo. The meeting also reviewed Egypt's efforts to restore a ceasefire in Gaza and put an end to the Israeli escalations against the Palestinian people. An Israeli airstrike killed 23 Palestinians, including 8 women and 8 children, in a house in Shuja'iyya in Gaza City on Wednesday. Medics said 40 others were wounded in the attack. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that Gaza had become a killing field. Guterres said in remarks to journalists at UN headquarters in New York that as Israel blocking of aid into Gaza has continued, the floodgates of horror have reopening, pointing to the conventions governing the treatment of people in war. Guterres emphasized the obligation of the occupying power to ensure the provision of food and medical supplies to the population. Guterres also raised the alarm about the situation in the West Bank. He added that it's time to end the dehumanization, protect civilians, release the hostages, ensure life-saving aid, and renew the ceasefire. Yemen's Houthi rebels said Wednesday the number of people killed in an airstrike on Hudaybiyah that they blamed on the United States has risen to 8. On Tuesday, Health Ministry spokesman said 4 children and 2 women had been killed. Houthi media said the strike had targeted a residential area in the Red Sea port city. Rebel-held areas of Yemen have seen near-daily strikes since Washington launched an air campaign against the Iran-backed Houthis on March 15 to force them to stop threatening vessels in key maritime routes. Since then, the Houthis have also launched attacks targeting U.S. military ships and Israel claiming to be acting in solidarity with Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Russia said on Wednesday the world was getting tired of endless threats against Iran and the bombing the country would not bring peace. Weekend talks between Iran and the United States are expected to focus on Tehran's nuclear program. About U.S. intentions, the talks were announced on Monday by the U.S. President Donald Trump, who returned to the White House in January. Also, it has repeatedly threatened Iran with military action if it does not agree to a deal. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Moscow was aware of the quite harsh rhetoric and that Tehran was taking preventative measures, and suggested the focus should be contact rather than confrontation. At least 21 Ukrainians were wounded during Russian attacks across the country overnight as Moscow stepped up its air bombardment. Despite U.S. efforts to secure a ceasefire, regional officials said on Wednesday that the worst attack left 15 people wounded in the central Ukrainian industrial region. The Ukrainian Air Force said that Moscow had launched 55 drones overnight and that its air defense units shot down 32 of the aerial attack aircraft. The Russian Defense Ministry, meanwhile, said it had shot down 158 Ukrainian drones over the west and south of the country. Also, it's disrupting operations at several civilian airports. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has held several rounds of the talks with both Ukrainian and Russian officials, hoping to secure a halt in fighting without seeing any tangible results. Welcome back. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli today assigned the ministerial group to lay specific scenarios regarding the latest U.S. decisions on imposing tariffs over the upcoming period in order to ensure the stability of economic conditions in Egypt. The Prime Minister made these remarks as he chaired a weekly cabinet meeting on the repercussions of imposing U.S. tariffs as well as the procedures taken by different ministries to boost localizing industries. The meeting also touched on efforts for tightening control on markets, the availability of food commodities, and the complementation of different development projects nationwide. Deputy Prime Minister for Industrial Development, who is also Minister of Industry and Transport, Kamel El-Wazir, today met representatives of 29 joint French corporations of investment opportunities available for the French side in the national market in the upcoming period. El-Wazir briefed the French businessman on Egypt's future investment plans, asserting the deeply rooted historic, economic, and strategic ties binding Egypt and France. He pointed out that Egypt is open to cooperation with countries across the globe in the fields of industry and transport, particularly with France being one of the most important economic partners for Egypt. Egypt rose closed lower today amid Arab and foreign corporate and Arab investor sells out against local corporate and local and foreign investor purchases. The market capital of listed companies reached 2.1 trillion Egyptian pounds at the end of the transactions of about 4 billion. The benchmark index EGX 30 dipped 1.9% above the 30,000 point mark. The equal weighted indices EGX 70 and EGX 100 fell 3.7% and 3.3% respectively. Welcome back. As we speak, Zamalek are facing Stellenbosch of South Africa in their CAF Confederation Cup second leg quarter-final clash at the Cairo International Stadium. The White Knights need a must-win result to book a place in the semi-finals after their away goalless draw in the first leg. Earlier, Al-Masri of Port Said were knocked out by Simba at Tanzania in their second league quarter-final clash in a 4-1 penalty shootout. The two teams had to go to penalties after Simba achieved a 2-0 home win over Al-Masri to hold a 2-2 draw on aggregate. The Cairo football giants Al-Ahli qualified to the semi-finals of the CAF Champions League for the 6th time in a row after their away 1-0 win over Sudan's Al-Hilal. Imam Ashur scored the game's only goal in the 80th minute. So that's the end of our news bulletin. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.